Hey, Rocky Ben Johnson here to record this week's High Tech Friday. This week we take another look at Flubaroo. Flubaroo is a utility that's going to automatically grade your tests for you. So for those of you giving final exams this quarter, you can go home before all of your colleagues. First step is to get logged into your Google Drive, click on the New button, and you want to make a new Google form. And first thing you want to do is set these requirements. Required the district login. I'd require that for high stakes. Automatically collect their username. That will get their email address. Only allow one question per person, one response per person, which is nice to restrict that. And then shuffle the question order so if students are seated next to each other, they won't be able to look at each other's screens. These are two new features that I wanted to point out. Okay, you want to go ahead and give your test a name. So I'll just call this Geo Quiz. And the very first thing I'd say is go ahead and collect the student's name. So I'll just put your name, and then you can put whether you want it to be last, first, however you want that to be. And that's a text question. And I'd go ahead and require that question, and then I'll hit done. And then I can just continue to add as many questions as I want. So if I want to be able to sort these by period, I could add an item to get by period. So I could just do multiple choice and ask for the period. And these are all optional choices that you can make, and I'll require that as well. This will get their email address. If you want to collect their own Gmail that they may be using on their smartphone, you could ask a question for that. And then here at this point, you're just going to simply ask questions. Probably the most popular is going to be multiple choice, and I'll just ask one: what is the capital of Colorado? The reason that multiple choice questions are so popular is because they're reliably graded. Some of the other question types are a little problematic, and I'll talk about those in just a second. So I'll just type in my choices here. And one thing you don't want to do at this point, some teachers think they want to check the correct answer here. You don't do that. To make the key, you actually take the test yourself, and I'll require that question. And so you would just go ahead and add as many questions as you want here. And the other question types, text are popular for spelling, but the caveat here is the student has to type exactly what you type. So you need to be clear about what they type there. If they type a stray spay or a period, it will be wrong. So be clear to students that spelling counts and not to type any stray characters. Paragraph is fine for essay questions. They won't be scored automatically. Multiple choice is the one that you'll use frequently. Checkboxes are fine. That's where you can have more than one correct answer, but there's no partial credit here. So if they check two of the three correct answers, they miss the entire question. So be clear to students about those. Choose from a list is just like multiple choice. It's just in a different looking format, so that's reliable also. The others here you probably won't need to use very much. However, if you're a geography or a math teacher or something, you want to put an image there. That image is one way that you can include a complicated formula that you might not be able to type with a equation editor. Okay, so you would just continue to ask as many questions as you want. These choices down at the bottom, I wouldn't publish it to show the link to the results. That would be a mistake with a test. You can allow the respondents to edit their responses after that initial submission if you want, up to you. Okay, now to make it pretty, you just come up here to the change theme, and you can pick a nice pretty background for your test if you'd like. The last thing I want to show you before we use the Flubaroo utility is that now you can make a short URL. If I go to the view live form here, you can see this URL is going to be too long for students to type in. Not a problem now. I can just hit the send form button and I can hit short URL, and that's going to give me a short URL which I can write then up on my whiteboard so that students can get to my quiz. Preferably put that into your Google Classroom or your Google site so that students don't have to actually even type that. But if you don't have a Google site or a Google Classroom, you can always jot that on the whiteboard, and then I'll hit done. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take this now as the teacher, and you want to get the questions right. And when you take it as a teacher, just go ahead and put teacher in all capital letters, and then you can put whatever period you want. The send me a copy of my responses is not desirable, but there's no way to eliminate that if you automatically collect the student's username, unfortunately. So I'll just hit submit. If you want to do a real high stakes test, you can always use Blackboard and I can help you with that, but I'll hit submit here. And now I've recorded my response as a teacher, and that's how it's going to get graded. I'll come back here to the quiz and I'm going to edit the questions, and so that I can take it again, I'm just going to uncheck this only allow one response per person and then view that live form again. Now I'm just going to pretend that I'm a student, and I'll just do student 1 and submit that. And then I'm going to take it again, just going back to the form, and this time I'll just be student 2, and this time I'll get the answer right and submit that. Okay, so let's say all 30 students have taken it. You're ready to grade this thing automatically. You just go back to your Google Drive. You may need to hit the refresh button, and you'll see now in your Google Drive that new test that you took. Here's the spreadsheet of responses. Here's the quiz if I want to go back and edit the actual form. So I'll just come here, double click that, and it's going to take me into the spreadsheet of the answers. Here they are. I don't want to grade this automatically, so I want to add that Flubaroo script. So I just come here to Addons, and I go to in this case I've already installed it, but you'll need to go to Get Add-ons if you've not yet installed it, and you'll just search for Flubaroo, and it's this app here, and you'll just hit add. I've already added it, so all I have to do is manage it if I want to. Okay. So you'll want to add that Flubaroo script, accept the terms of use, all that good stuff. Once it's installed, you'll go back to add-ons and you'll see it Flubaroo, and you'll just hit grade assignment, and it's going to bring up this wizard then to prompt you through it. It'll just ask you which of these questions identifies a student. It's pretty good at guessing that, so it knows the username, your name, and the period. If it makes a mistake, you can always just manually change that if that was actually a question, or if you just wanted to skip that question. You can change those as well. Now if I want this question to be worth 5 points, I can set it to be 5 points, and then I would just assign all my questions the amount of points that I want, and then I'd hit continue. And then on this one you have to tell it which one is the teacher's response. In this case that's my response. It doesn't have to be the first one, so if you take it at the end you can check the last one. It doesn't make any difference. I hit continue. And right now Flubaroo is going to grade this. The more students and questions you have, the longer it will take. Should be pretty quick in this example because I've only got 2 students and 1 question. And then I'll just hit view grades. If students if more than, I think, something like 60% of 50% of the students missed it, it codes that to be orange, so you can quickly scan across all of your questions and see which ones students struggled on. In this case, half the students missed this question, so it flagged it orange. It's going to give you total points, a percent, so then you can transfer that to your grade book. It gives you an overall summary up here, so as a teacher that should be good feedback about how the kids did overall. If I go back up here to my add-ons, go back to Flubaroo, I can view a report, and that's going to make a nice histogram to show me the distribution of grades in the class with only 2 students and 1 question. This wasn't terribly helpful, but on a real quiz it would be, and I'll close that. If I go back to add-ons here, I can go to Flubaroo and I can email the grades. And in this case I just have to tell it which column has the student email address, and in my case it's this username. I can type a note to the class. I can include an answer key if all my students have finished it or not, and then I just hit continue, and now it's going to send all of those students the results on how they did, so they'll get immediate feedback, which is nice because often they don't get your grade until maybe after you get back from winter break, which doesn't do a whole lot of good. So that's a nice immediate feedback. Okay, so few other things to point out quickly. If I go back to, remember I can get back to the quiz itself by going back to my Google Drive and clicking on that. And I can add questions here, chains, options, whatever I want. A few things I want to point out is if I come up here to my add-ons and I get add-ons on the quiz itself, there is a math equation editor that math teachers might want to install, and you can just add that on for free. It doesn't cost anything. You can look at some of these other options. There are some really nice options here that you might want to use that will set the time that it gets released, close it. So come back, look at these options if you'd like to see some of that other functionality. And then again, just remember that you can insert images if you have complex formulas or maps or things like that. All right, so that's a real quick update on some of the changes with the Google form, mainly that you can restrict to one response, you can shuffle the question order, and now you can get a short URL to post on the whiteboard. Um, Hopefully give that a try. I think you'll like it, and like I said, you'll be able to go home before the rest of your colleagues, so that's always a good thing. Thanks for watching today's screencast.